Okay, ready to go.
The problem on pages 203 in the White Book. Many of us felt inadequate, unworthy, alone, and afraid. Our insides never matched what we saw on the outsides of others. Early on, we came to feel disconnected from parents, from peers, from ourselves. We tuned out with fantasy and masturbation. We plugged in by drinking in the pictures, the images, and pursuing the objects of our fantasy. We lusted and wanted to be lusted after. We became true addicts. Sex with self, promiscuity, adultery, dependency, relationships, and more fantasy. We got it through the eyes. We bought it. We sold it. We traded it. We gave it away. We were addicted to the intrigue, the tease, the forbidden. The only way we knew to be free of it was to do it. Please connect with me and make me whole, we cried with outstretched arms. Lusting after the big fix, we gave away our power to others. This produced guilt, self hatred, remorse, emptiness, and pain. And we were driven ever inward, away from reality, away from love, lost inside ourselves. Our habit made true intimacy impossible. We could never know real union with another because we were addicted to the unreal. We went for the chemistry, the connection that had the magic because it bypassed intimacy and true union. Fantasy corrupted the real, lust killed love. First addicts, then love cripples, and took from others to fill up what was lacking in ourselves, conning ourselves time and again that the next one would save us. We were really losing ourselves. The solution on pages 204 and 205 in the White Book. We saw that our problem was threefold: physical, emotional, and spiritual. Healing had to come about in all three. The crucial change in attitude began when we admitted we were powerless, that our habit had us whipped. We came to meetings and withdrew from our habit. For some, this meant no sex with themselves or others, including not getting into relationships. For others, it also meant drying out and not having sex with the spouse for a time to recover from lust. We discovered that we could stop, that not feeding the hunger didn't kill us, that sex was indeed optional. There was hope for freedom, and we began to feel alive. Encouraged to continue, we turned more and more away from our isolating obsession with sex and self and turned to God and others. All this was scary. We couldn't see the path ahead, except that others had gone that way before. Each new step of surrender felt it would be off the edge into oblivion. But we took it, and instead of killing us, surrender was killing the obsession. We had stepped into the light, into a whole new way of life. The fellowship gave us monitoring and support to keep us from being overwhelmed, a safe haven where we could finally face ourselves. Instead of covering our feelings with compulsive sex, we began exposing the roots of our spiritual emptiness and hunger, and the healing began. As we faced our defects, we became willing to change. Surrendering them broke the power that it had over us. We began to be more comfortable with ourselves and others for the first time without our drug, forgiving all who had injured us. And without injuring others, we tried to right our own wrongs. At each amends, more of the dreadful load of guilt dropped from our shoulders until we could lift our heads, look the world in the eye, and stand free. We began practicing a positive sobriety, taking the actions of love to improve our relations with others. We were learning how to give, and the measure we gave was the measure we got back. We were finding what none of the substitutes had ever supplied. We were making the real connection with a capital C. We were home. And I'll begin to um, share a little about myself and my ESH, Experience, Strength, and Hope. So again, my name is Coach Ty, and I'm a holistic health coach, an Army vet, a breath and meditation facilitator, and. But I'm also a thankful and grateful recovering alcoholic and sexaholic. Though I found out later in life that sexaholism was actually my primary issue. And I actually didn't find this out until about 23, 24 years old. But during that time and even afterwards, I was drowning my pain, my trauma, my fears, my shame, my guilt, my rage, my resentment, my anxiety, depression, self loathing, lust, doubt, abandonment, and rejection. And even in the past, that I found out after doing the work, pseudo smiles and happiness. And I found all of these were my character defects, but I didn't know. Literally did not know. I knew anger was a thing. I knew rage. Whew, I knew that. And I thought that was my primary language. But then, of course, years went on and me really being consistent with breath and meditation and coming into the SA fellowship, I found out that that was not my original thing, but I had to learn that. Um, but man, going through all of that, I mean, I was drowning all of my character defects and my woes in literally a fifth, 750 milliliters of Crown every 24 to 48 hours. To the point to literally anywhere I moved to, the ABC, for those in the South or in the East, store or the liquor store, knew my name, literally. And it was sad. But again, I was not aware. And then when I did become aware in about 23 and 24, like because of the shame, the guilt, the fear of SA and the stigma behind it, I was just like, I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna tell anybody that's my thing. You crazy. And then, like I said, I heard that still small voice at about 23 or 24 years old. But I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna say that's my thing because I'm not. I would rather be a drunk than say that. And when I tell you guys, like, even with the alcohol, the liquor, thank God, thank you, HP, that he delivered me for that from that. But it was just as recent as 7 years ago that I was making those liquor runs every 24 to 48 hours. And just as recent as 4 years ago that I was making those 24 to 48 hour store runs to get a 12 pack, or, sometimes, a lot of times, the 12 pack just didn't do it. I'm gonna be honest. And I would get a case, 24 pack, because I just had so much shame and guilt and resentment because of this disease. And I would try to white knuckle it and try to stop, and I could go days, sometimes even weeks. Honestly, one time I remember going a whole year without acting out, though I didn't have that language that time. I didn't know it was acting out per se. I was just like, I just had an insatiable appetite for sex or lust. But coming to the fellowship, I learned that now I was acting out. But it wasn't my thing that I wanted to do. Unfortunately, some of those that have been in the SA rooms with me have learned a little bit of my story, because of some perversions of the men that sexually abused me early on in my childhood years, like 4 years old, up until, man, teenage years. And it was a few different people. One was a family member, and the others were just other family friends that were supposed to be family friends. And when I did tell somebody, they literally was like, no, they wouldn't do that. You got to be dreaming or something. Like, no, they would never do that. And when I tell you, that hurt me to my core. Like, for those of us that have been sexually abused, we know, like, one, it's hard to even admit that to anybody. It's something that you carry forever, shame you carry forever. But when you finally do get the courage and the nerve to tell somebody, they tell you you're lying, man, that broke me. That hurt me to my core. And literally, like, that just fueled my rage. And I was just like, you know what? Whatever. I'm not going to say anything else. I'm not going to tell anybody else. And unfortunately, later on in life, when I was about 19, 20, my boyfriend at the time raped me. It was just ridiculous, the abuse that I went through. And I've literally been abused in every way, sexually, mentally, emotionally. verbally and spiritually. I was church hurt for a while. So I went through all the abuse, unfortunately. But thank you, God. Thanks to my higher power. He has been keeping me this whole time. And even when I strayed away and even when I ran away, mm, it was his love and grace and mercy that continue to keep me alive, literally. Because I have contemplated and tried to kill myself in the past because of it, because of all of the pain and the shame and the guilt and the abuse and the fact that I wasn't protected. I wasn't protected the way I should have been by the ones who should have done it. And you know what? Because of God and His grace and mercy and His love and His continued working and being with me, I honestly have come to forgive all of them. The ones who didn't believe me, the ones who unfortunately abused me. I literally have a peace now, that true peace that the Bible talks about, that I heard about all through growing up in church. Because, by the way, I grew up in church and I heard about the peace that surpasses all understanding, and I intellectually know about it. But, and I, every now and then throughout my life, like, I would have spurts and moments. But man, within this last three years strong, God has just really been doing the work in me and just healing me at a quantum leap level. Like, it's just been like he's been peeling back and doing surgery on me and just loving on me and pruning me at the same time and crushing me at the same time, but still loving me and consoling me and holding me and rocking me and being there and continue to whisper and continues to chase after me. And I am so grateful and I am so thankful, so thankful to my higher power. And I'm also thankful for him bringing breath and meditation into my life and me getting into a continuous, constant, daily practice. It's helping me go deeper with my relationship with Christ, with my learning and my studying and my sexual appetite to research and study, which I thank him for that as well. Because I mean, I didn't even know that was a gift until recently, like within the last year, that I've always had this insatiable appetite to learn and study as well. But to study, to learn, to know and to understand his voice and who he really was and who he is in my life, and also so that I can help others learn that same love that I knew and I still know. Woo, to this day. And it's so beautiful. And it's so beautiful. And last year when my life became so unmanageable that I almost lost the love of my life, and it broke me to my knees, I had to, no, God allowed for a divine intervention and divine connection of the SA fellowship. And with that first meeting, it changed my life. It literally changed my life. And I was like, oh, from that meeting, I was like, hey, so what is this SA literature? Where's it at? How do I find it? Da-da-da. And I just went all in. I bought the Kindle versions and the physical versions and audio. Like every single day, I just read and study and I learn more and more about this unfortunate disease that does have a hold on us, but they have a solution. And if we attack these things in all three levels, physical, emotionally, and spiritually, man, we can really embrace and see the big picture and also start experiencing the love of our power and continue to surrender. So while I was getting things together, um, high power dropped into my spirit, amoeba, and amoeba. And for those that know what an amoeba is, um, I do not mean to insult your intelligence, but I'm just going to give what Collins Dictionary said about an amoeba. just a few of them. So an amoeba is a microscopic organism, aka a microorganism or microbes. A microorganism is an organism that is so small it can only be viewed under a microscope, not seen with the naked eye. The second one, microbes are tiny living things that are found all around us and are too small to be seen by the naked eye. They live in water, soil, and the air. Three, again, they live in amoebas, water, soil, and the air. And remember reading or hearing the essay problem? It's threefold: physical, emotional, and spiritual. That connection of an amoeba and how, in the negative connotation of an amoeba, it literally eats you from the inside out. That's what SA does. It eats you from from the inside out. When I seen that, when that connection came about, when I was looking this stuff up, I was just like, whoa, whoo, that was beautiful to me. The third one that I caught from the Collins dictionary: some microbes make us sick. Others are important for our health. That stood out to me because SA makes us sick and makes our lives unmanageable. But when we begin to surrender to our higher power in God, when we come into the SA fellowship, when we start reading this literature and studying it and not just reading it from page to page, but actually embodying it, it starts to shift from sickness and unmanageability to becoming our health. It works for us. Instead of working against us at the beginning, this fellowship has shown me, and this literature has shown me, that it'll shift and it start being working out for my good and healthy if I continue to attack those things in those three ways: physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And that was just the key for me. One of the things that one of the old timers I heard in a fellowship said, if I just continue, or if we can continue, because he wasn't speaking to me specifically, but he was sharing. And he was like, steps, 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 meetings, 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 service, service, service. And continue to study and embody what you're learning and tackle this disease from all three sides. The healing, you will see the healing will continue and will start. And I have seen and experienced that, sometimes slowly and sometimes quickly. But I have experienced that healing. And as the solution says, each new step of surrender felt it would be off the edge into oblivion. But I continued to take it, and I will continue to take it. And instead of killing me, surrender was killing the obsession. We had stepped into the light, into a whole new way of life. And I'll finish my share with this reading called The Joy Response Out of Recovery Continues, which is a SA approved literature. And the joy response is on page 38 to 40. And it reads, once I started staying sober, every lust temptation I had was accompanied by fear. The more of a trigger the image was, the greater the fear. This fear isn't easy to describe. It seems to include fear of women, fear of men, fear of being overwhelmed, fear of losing control, fear that that first drink will light the fuse of desire that will ignite my whole being, fear of unleashing the monster, fear of shutting God out, fear of the darkness that descends. When I was first sober, this fear was very intense. I remember saying in meetings time and again, I feel like I'm walking precariously along a narrow path, only as wide as my foot, with a bottomless abyss going straight down on either side. It's the line between life and death. In any minute, I can lose my balance, tip over, and keep falling forever into the turbulent blackness. There wasn't much recovery there, but that was all I had. I didn't realize that coming off sex, lust, and relationships meant the foundation of my whole existence had been torn away, and there was nothing solid yet to take its place. The very core of my being had no support, nothing to stand on. I felt very, very shaky. All I had was the support I got in meetings, even meetings in which I was extremely uncomfortable. As the years went by, the fear diminished in intensity, but was still there. I finally reached a sort of truce where I was no longer afraid of the fear, but it took a lot of sharing in meetings and one on one and working the steps to begin to have even a little feeling of security. All this time, I had used various prayers in the moment of temptation. I'm powerless. Please help. I surrender my right to lust. I don't want any part of this lust. I send my lust to you. I don't want to bear any of it. I want you to bless this person and to help them, etc. And it worked, thank God. Such actions became an immediate reflex, almost automatic. I had come to make peace with my lust. I discovered great freedom in acknowledging what I really am. No more denial or blaming it on others or on stress or on circumstances. I'm a lustaholic, and it's my lust that wants to bust out. It was as though I had come to an understanding that lust would always be there, waiting for an opportunity to be indulged, but that I could respond in surrender, that quiet dying upward, and be freed from it by His grace. I was comfortable with the situation, but I began to wonder, then ask, is there something better than fear? Just recently, I was studying the first few paragraphs of the letter of James when something struck me. He says, count it all joy when you fall into various temptations. It occurred to me that I might be, that I might try gratitude whenever I was tempted. The next temptation it had happened to be resentment, anger. And as I became aware of it, I thanked God for the situation and for victory over my resentment. Doing that felt strange, but I thanked Him for both trial and victory while feeling resentful. Again, I thanked Him for both trial and victory while feeling resentful. I was immediately loosed from it, and the feeling that followed was better than what used to accompany the previous deliverances. As victorious as the fear surrender experiences has been, this was better. The feeling was positive and buoyant. Instead of mere relief, there was something new, joy. Then I tried this on the next lust temptation. As soon as I thanked Him for the victory, the fear dissolved and joy came. So I kept trying it on lust and resentment, and then on fear, my big three. And it worked on all of them, and it's still working. I bring my rescuer into the temptation with me. And I highlighted that thing because that really spoke to me. And I'll read it again. I bring my rescuer into the temptation with me. This is very new for me today, but I like the feeling. Acceptance, gratitude, and joy are better than fear. And I'd rather have this than the mood altering pills I took before sobriety. Real joy and without a hangover. I'm not naturally a very joyful person, but now I have a way I can actually bring joy into my life through every temptation and trial. Whenever I count it all joy, I have joy. What a gift. And that was written on the 2nd of May in 1986. And again, that reading was titled The Joy Response out of Recovery Continues on pages 38 through 40. I like to make those noises, by the way. So I wanted to share this quote, and because it did definitely spoke to me, by Walt Disney. The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. I love that. So I'm gonna turn it back over to Miss B.
All right. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, we're going to go ahead and open the meeting up for shares. Before moving forward, I'm going to read the shares layout. In participation, we avoid topics that can lead to dissension or distraction. We also avoid explicit sexual descriptions and sexually abusive language. The emphasis is on honesty, recovery, and healing, how to apply the 12 steps and traditions in our daily lives. No crosstalk, please. Crosstalk means interrupting, giving advice, or criticizing another person's share. If someone feels another is getting too explicit, they may so signify by saying, "My hand is raised," at which point the moderator may consult the group conscience. The goal is to finish within 1 hour, though mainly because we've already taken half the time, we'll finish up within the next 30 minutes, giving everyone the opportunity to participate. Please limit sharing to 2 minutes. Said
Yes,
2 minutes?
2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes, yes. The timekeeper will remind you when your time has expired. Please be respectful of the group by acknowledging the timekeeper and closing your shares when time is called. All right. If anybody would like to raise